friends, how are you? I hope you have been enjoying these videos. Today's video is going to be in the last part to my series, basically what I read last year, all wrapped up by the trope in these different videos. I really liked sitting down and filming it. I enjoyed going through, making the lists again, writing down, remembering about all these awesome books that I've read, connecting with new authors, reading authors that are not new to me, but I love. It's just been really fun. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Kat. I love to share about the romance novels that I read here in my channel. I would love you to consider subscribing. If you like reading romance, this is the place to be. Also, if you've liked these videos, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up as well, because that will tell YouTube to push it out to more people and show it to more people, which is a good thing for my channel, and it's a great thing for the authors that I talk about here on my channel. Today's video is on my last two tropes, which are romantic suspense and enemies to lovers. So the list is not in any particular order. If anything, it's more chronological because that's how I went through and made the list. So without further ado, let's talk about romantic suspense. So each of these books is going to be on the darker shade on the spectrum, so to speak. The first one is a trilogy by one of my favorite authors, the Deliver Us from Evil trilogy by Monica James. I did videos on Thy Kingdom Come, Into Temptation, and Deliver Us from Evil, Punky and Baby Doll. It's dark mafia, Irish mafia. I loved these books. Punky is such an interesting character, a younger guy when the book starts, and then at one point we pick up 10 years later. It's very family-centered. I really love this trilogy. Next is Endurance by Alexandra Silva. Alexandra Silva is one of my favorite authors. I have read all her books. I am fortunate enough to also be a beta reader of hers. I just fell in love with her stories, the very first book of hers that I read. This is about Avery and Garrett. It was part of Salvation Society book groups. Is that... I'm blanking on the author's name that put that together. But basically all the books center around kind of the male character is a strong protector type. And then the female characters have something that they need help with. That's actually kind of a stupid way to say it. But the thing that I loved about this book, and that I love about all of Alexandra's books, except for like the funny, light-hearted Sweet Vine series, I love her darker books. Her Virtue and Lies series, absolutely freaking stunning, amazing series. This one was like that in that it was a bit darker, and also two new characters that we hadn't met before. Garrett is a doctor, a physician. He meets Avery after she's basically been roughed up by her husband and trying to get away. She's taken in by common friends. They call him and they're like, hey, God, can you help us out? Like, she's in really rough shape. Their relationship blooms from there. I love the strong protector type characters. I just will fall for that every single time. I love the nurturing male characters, and Garrett was very much that. Funny, I was just talking about Alexandra Silva because that's the next book we have. It was the end to her Virtue and Lies series with books 5 and 6? Smoke and Flame. The books were about Freddie and Georgina. I've been waiting for Freddie's book since the first book, Burn, because Freddie was so... I didn't like him. Let's be real. He was not a character that I connected with. He was not a character, I couldn't get a read on him. He was brash. He was opinionated. He was very alpha. He was a little scary. He was a little scary. So when I knew that his book was going to be one of the last books, I was kind of like, okay, okay. Let me tell you, I just completely came around to him. Being able to get in his head the way Alexandra wrote him in these two books, made me understand him on a much deeper level, which made me appreciate her writing so much more. Georgina was exactly the perfect match to him. I started out the book and I wanted to hit him the way he was treating her. I was just like, crap, what am I going to do about him? I got to read two books about him now. But let me tell you, that is the beauty of her writing. I loved him at the end of these books. Now, he's no Christopher. That's Scorch. I read that the previous year. That's why I'm not including it in this. But this Virtue and Lies series of hers, you guys, if you like dark romance, political, but yet strong ties and bonds, and it takes place in England, I just knocked it A++ out of the park. Chef's kiss, freaking amazing. Trilina Pucci's Worship is next. I actually read the first book in this series. Gosh, was it 2019 or 2020? And then I read Worship as well, but I had to stop to do something else. And I did a video on the first book. Truth is the first book. I did a video on that, but I never published it because I was going to read the whole series. So I was so excited to get back to film my video for Worship and then also complete the series and read Depraved, which of course would be the next thing I'm talking about. This is Mob, this is Suspense, this is amazing alpha male characters. It's supposed to take place in Chicago as well, which of course I love. I loved Worship in that I loved Luca. Love Luca. Whew. Yeah, with his baby, give me Luca. Luca. But then I read Depraved, and oh my God, Dante. Depraved is about Dante and Sarah. Sarah works for the guys at the club. So it's got a little bit of workplace mixed in there. I just loved Dante. Yes, I will get. Oh gosh, I was just going to say something that I probably shouldn't say. It's inappropriate. Highly recommend Trilina's Sinful Dark Mafia series. And then the last, Romantic Suspense. I'm going to put it in this category. It could also be historical romance, but I feel like Romantic Suspense was good place for it as well, is North of the Stars by Monica James. It's her In Love and War new series. Now, the next book comes out, it comes out after I'm filming this. So I believe it comes out in January or early February. She killed me in the best way with this book. She sucked me in from the get-go. Which if you saw my video, I explained about my love of historical romance in that video. I love historical fiction. That would be my other genre. That was my go-to genre for years before I started focusing specifically on romance. So this was right up my alley, being historical fiction. It's Danes and Saxons. It's freaking amazing. The characters are Emmeline and Scarth. You guys, I freaking love it. I cannot wait. The way the book ends, yes, it's a cliffhanger. Yes, I'm hanging off the cliff. Yes, I need the next book now. It's become, I think, my second favorite book of hers, series of hers ever. I've read not all of Monica's books, even though she's one of my favorite authors. Not all of them, but I have read a lot of them. My first love will always and favorite always be her I Surrender series. I have all the paperbacks. I should have grabbed them. But I love Jasper White, man. It's one of the first romances I read that made me feel like I feel when I read romance, and I didn't know I could feel that way reading a book. And I've always been a reader, but reading that and T.L. Swan's a Stanton series, I was a goner after those two. And So that's why I say it's my second favorite, because the Surrender series will always be my first, but damn, she's good with this one. Moving on to Enemies to Lovers. Enemies to Lovers is not necessarily one of my favorites. I don't not read it. Like, I basically stay away from bully romance if I can, because it makes my heart hurt. I have read them. I will read them, but it makes my heart hurt. And I kind of feel that way about Enemies to Lovers too, just not to the degree that I do with bully. But the beginning where they're enemies like makes my heart hurt a little bit. I'm a little too much of a softie. The first book on the list is, which you guys might be surprised if you've read it, is Lilac by B.B. Reed. It's also a rock star romance. It is also a reverse harem. I could have included it in my forbidden taboo, but when I sat down to make these lists and went through the books again and was thinking about them, and I actually have the paperback. I won it. It's the most gorgeous paperback. Hello. It's just absolutely stunning. And the inside is just as stunning with the chapter headings. So when I sat down to make the list, I was like, you know what? Yes, it's reverse harem. I'd like to read more of those, because those relationships are really complex, and that's where like a lot of the meat is. Relationships, obviously, are like where the meat is to me, and why I love romance so much. So reverse harem, talk about complex, right? But to me, it was more about Braxton coming into the band, and Bound, which is the name of the band. She's a newcomer. They don't want her there. They are forced to have her there. So it, to me, yes, it's reverse harem, but it was more enemies to lovers to start with, and where I really connected with Braxton with in this book. The other characters, Houston, Lauren, and Jericho. I mean, it's, of course, with a reverse harem, it's like, well, which one's your favorite? And how could you pick a favorite? And what they all bring to the table in their relationship with her is just so interesting. And the title of this book, if you know and you've read this book and you know why it's titled Lilac, and the thing that Braxton has about her, I'm dancing around it, I know, and how that is part of the story, and how the title is Lilac. And if you get all that, freaking phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. The next enemy to lovers is Love to Hate You by Alexandra Silva and Sophie Blue. This is the second book in the Sweet Vine series. I talked about Need to Have You in another video. So this is about Sebastian and Kate. Kate's best friend is Sebastian's sister. I loved the banter in this book between them. They didn't hurt my heart so much unless they fought. But I love Alexandra Silva's books. I think we're going to get one more book in this series, and I'm anxiously awaiting that one. Up next is The Boyfriend Designer by Christopher Harlan. This was the second book I have read of his, and I almost put it in the rom-com section, because the banter between these two characters is really funny. The characters are Shoshana and Connor. Connor is a well-known YouTube personality, and then Shoshana also is as well, which it was funny because not that I consider myself a YouTube person, but I am on YouTube. I do have this channel, right? So it hit kind of close to home, which was kind of fun. And the premise between how they meet just kind of showed us the yucky side of kind of social media people. But also how Christopher turned that around and how they changed from enemies to lovers. And of course, I love the cover, and it reminded me that I want to go back and read some other books of Christopher's. Then we have Vicious Little Snakes by Trilina Pucci. This is about Liam and Caroline. There's something really edgy to Trilina's books, and I was anxious to see where this book was going to go. In Filthy Little Pretties, which I read the previous year, that's why it's not included in this year's, we met Liam and Caroline, Liam is the kind of third party to Donovan and Gray and Liam's friendship. Caroline is Gray's stepsister, is that right? This series has been kind of described like Gossip Girl. I haven't actually seen that show, but I know enough about it that I would say yes, it would be a similar type, you know, affluent families, rich kids, kind of devil may care attitudes, kind of feeling like they rule the world, and because of their wealth they kind of do. It's young adults, it's high school. I think it's Hillcrest Prep series. So Caroline was a really complicated character, and I didn't like her in the first book. She doesn't do things that are likable, but I was anxious to read this book knowing that it was about her and Liam and that they had a connection, because I wanted to get to know Caroline better. I wanted to understand her. And let me tell you, I loved how she made my heart hurt and how she acted. The more the book went on, I started to understand why she acted how she did. And I remember saying in my video for that book that Caroline, as a 30-year-old woman, I want to see that Caroline, because she has so much potential. And she's on the precipice at the end of Vicious Little Snakes. And I loved that Trilina got me there with her writing and this story. Last but not least, we have The Casanova by T.L. Swan, my very favorite unicorn author. She kicked my butt with this book. It's about Elliot and Catherine. In my opinion, T.L. Swan does no wrong. I love her stories. I can always connect with her female characters. I love how there's always some similarity between them. They have really strong, great friendships around them. They always go out for margaritas. That happens to be my favorite drink as well. I had been anxious to get to know Elliot better because, of course, he's Elliot Miles, which is part of the Miles High Club series. And Jameson was the first book, which is the stopover. The takeover was Tristan. The takeover is what really exploded T's career. I'm so happy for her. I have a very special place in my heart for Tristan Miles. He is everything to me. I know there's a lot of people, because of how many books she sold, that feel the same way about Tristan. I want him all for myself. But there was something really special about Elliot as well. Elliot is a deep thinker in a way that, to me, he was very similar to Joshua Stanton in a lot of ways. And Joshua Stanton will always be number one. I used to hold Oliver Men up against Joshua and Ben. Yeah, Joshua and Ben, but now it's going to be like Joshua and Tristan. There were times in this book where I was mad at him, but I love that her writing makes me that way. And I love how emotional, I love her banter, and the Casanova had it all. It had it all. And that's my last book of this whole series of videos that I've done here on my channel. I hope you guys have enjoyed them. I hope you've gotten some wonderful recommendations. Next month in February will be my channel's 3rd year anniversary. I am planning lots of great stuff. So make sure you follow me on my social media. Make sure, come say hi. I would love to connect. It's Kat Reads Romance on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And then, of course, on Facebook, I have my private Facebook group, which is Kat's Romance Readers. I will be doing stuff here on my channel, and then I will be doing stuff in my group as well for my channel's 3-year anniversary. And I would love to have you come join. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you very soon.